Every town has its dirty little secrets. But what do you do when the sky itself confesses? March 3, 1876, in Bath County, Kentucky, wasn't just another day in the sticks. It was the day it rained meat, raw, bloody, and unexplainable. Not a drizzle of raindrops, but a deluge of flesh. A mystery so thick you could carve it with a knife. Forget the sanitized tales of quirky weather phenomena. This was no act of God. This was chaos in its most primal form, and it smelled like rot and desperation. The sanitized legend talks of farmers and housewives gawking in awe, but that's just the sugar-coated beginning. Let's peel back the layers of fear. This bizarre meat shower didn't fall from the heavens without a push. It wasn't happenstance. It was the climax of untreated madness. Picture it, a rural community, isolated and trapped in a vice of superstition and ignorance. They were the pawns in an unholy game of nature versus humanity. The sky didn't cry beef without a reason. Here's the hidden motive: the desperate struggle to maintain control over a world that doesn't play by the rules. The internal enemy? Fear. Stark, naked fear. In the 19th century, Kentucky was a place where the unknown bred tales of terror. People clung to their land, their beliefs, and their fragile sanity. The meat didn't drop because of some freak storm. It was a manifestation of their darkest dreads. A community so bound by its fear of the unknown it couldn't see past its own paranoia. Let's talk players. Mother Nature, the ruthless dealer, threw down her cards. At the table, the townsfolk were sweating bullets, clutching their rosaries, and praying for salvation. They didn't see meat. They saw divine punishment, or a sign of doom. The sky was their enemy that day, a cosmic joke with no punchline. Their world was small, and their grip on reality was slipping. The normal rules of engagement didn't apply when your ceiling threw down its earthly contents. The event, though brief, was a microcosm of human folly. A disaster of perception. These weren't just hunks of flesh. They were symbols of a community's collective delusion. The sanitized story avoids the grit. There was no science, no rational explanation to soothe their nerves. The meat was their breaking point, the final straw in a haystack of fear. It was a mirror held up to their faces, reflecting their own vulnerability and ignorance back at them. And in that moment they knew without knowing, they were small, and the universe was vast and incomprehensible. Let's cut through the myth and sink our teeth into the raw facts. It was midday, and Mrs. Crouch, the farmer's wife, was out on her porch making soap. Not exactly a scene out of a thriller, right? But then came the pitter-patter. It wasn't rain. It was meat. Chunks of red flesh, some as large as 6 inches across, littered their yard like grotesque confetti. A shower of meat, falling out of a clear blue sky. Forget what you know. This wasn't weather. This was weird on a whole new level. Now, let's see the scene through the eyes of the so-called experts. Science wasn't exactly quick to jump in. Frankly, they were left scratching their heads. Theories were tossed around like dice at a craps table. Vultures, some said. Regurgitating their last meal mid-flight, if you can stomach that. Others pointed fingers at atmospheric anomalies as if nature had a twisted sense of humor. The truth? Nobody wanted to admit how little they actually knew. Their ignorance was as thick as the Kentucky air. Then there were the opportunists. The so-called players in this grotesque game. The ones who saw a chance to make a splash in the headlines. Reporters swarmed like flies on a carcass, eager to spin the tale into whatever sold the most papers. They painted Bath County as a backwater freak show, a place where the impossible was just another Tuesday. The meat wasn't just on the ground, it was on the front page. The story was a commodity, a freakish spectacle packaged for public consumption. And what about the locals? They were caught between skepticism and superstition, walking a tightrope of disbelief and dread. For them, this wasn't just a spectacle. It was an omen. A sign that something was terribly wrong. They gathered in hushed groups, dissecting the event like amateur sleuths, desperate for answers. Each theory more outlandish than the last. Their fear was palpable, a living thing that seeped into every conversation, every nervous glance skyward. Here's the dirty truth. This wasn't just a freak occurrence. It was a revelation of their own frailty. The meet was a mirror, a reflection of their deepest fears and insecurities. The inability to control their world, the chaos lurking just beyond the horizon. It was the raw underbelly of human folly exposed, a cosmic prank with no punchline. When the sky itself betrays you, what else can you trust? The event left an indelible mark, a scar on the psyche of a community that realized how little it understood its own place in the universe. The day it rained meat wasn't just a bizarre anecdote. It was a turning point, a shattering of the mundane. Picture this: the Crouch family porch, the air thick with the metallic odor of fresh blood. The ground was a checkerboard of flesh. It wasn't the rain they were used to, the kind that nurtured their crops and soothed their worries. This rain was an affront, a slap in the face of routine. It hit them where it hurt, their trust in the natural order of things. The visceral experience was gut-wrenching. Imagine the sound of meat hitting the earth, a sickening thud that punctuated the silence. The texture, the rawness of it, was an assault on the senses. Each piece a question mark. Each thud a challenge to their understanding. Not just chunks of flesh, but pieces of reality itself, torn and scattered. The atmosphere was oppressive, the very air charged with a kind of dark electricity. It was a moment frozen in time, a snapshot of chaos. Then came the whispers, the rising tide of panic. As word spread, the surrounding communities buzzed with speculation. Fear was a disease spreading faster than the truth. Was this a plague? A divine warning? Theories layered upon theories, each more desperate than the last. The meet had become more than a mystery. It was a catalyst for collective hysteria. Every crack of thunder, every rustle of leaves, was now suspect. The world was suddenly full of shadows. In the heart of this storm of speculation stood the Crouch family, bewildered and besieged. The porch was no longer a place of comfort, but a crime scene. The weight of the town's fear pressed heavily on their shoulders. They were the unwilling epicenter of a bizarre phenomenon, caught between their own disbelief and the probing questions of outsiders. Each visitor, each curious gaze, added another layer of complexity to their already fraying nerves. But here's the grim punchline, the point of no return. The moment the first chunk of meat hit the ground, a chain reaction was set off. The skies had opened, and with them, the floodgates of paranoia and doubt. There was no going back to the simple life, no return to the way things were. The fabric of their reality had been torn, and nothing could stitch it back together. The meet was more than a physical phenomenon. It was a spiritual upheaval, a mark on their souls as indelible as any scar. So, what's the real takeaway from this meaty mystery? The sanitized history books might shrug it off as an oddity, a blip on the radar of time. But the truth is far more raw and telling. This wasn't just about flesh falling from the sky. It was about the fragility of human understanding. A vivid reminder that even in the heart of so-called civilization, we are but a misunderstanding away from chaos. Bath County was left with a bitter taste of humility, a reminder of their smallness in the face of the universe's bizarre whims. Behind the curtain, the players were left grappling with more than just confusion. The townsfolk were forced to confront the limits of their knowledge and the depths of their fear. The scientific community, the so-called bastions of reason, were caught off guard, fumbling for explanations. Their reputations took a hit, as did their egos. The rain of meat was a humbling spectacle for all, a leveling of the intellectual playing field. It was a reminder that nature doesn't always play by our rules, and when it doesn't, we are left floundering like fish on dry land. As for the opportunists, the media, ever hungry for the sensational, took their shot and milked the event for every gory detail. But in their frenzy to sell the story, they missed the real heart of it, a universal vulnerability. The Crouch family and their neighbors were reduced to characters in a freak show, their genuine fear and confusion turned into a spectacle. But beneath the headlines lay the truth, a community's confrontation with its own ignorance, its brush with the unknown. The meat rain wasn't just a curiosity, it was a mirror reflecting their deepest insecurities. Amid the chaos, the internal enemy stood revealed. Fear, in all its raw, unvarnished glory. It crept into every conversation, colored every theory, and clouded every judgment. It was fear that turned a strange event into an existential crisis. The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control, the fear of what lies beyond the edge of understanding. The meat rain was not just a physical phenomenon, it was a psychological one. A test of resilience against the dark corners of human imagination. And in the end, it was fear that triumphed, leaving an indelible mark on the community's psyche. And here we find our fatal error, the lesson carved into history's flesh. The failure to confront the unknown with courage and curiosity, choosing instead to let fear dictate the narrative. Bath County's mystery was never about the meat, it was about the reaction to it. The panic, the desperation, the wild speculation, all fueled by a refusal to face the unknown with open eyes. In our own lives, the lesson stands: confront fear with knowledge, curiosity, and a readiness to accept that not all mysteries have immediate answers. Otherwise, we risk repeating the mistakes of the past, trapped in a cycle of ignorance and fear. The curtain pulls back on Bath County, a place forever marked by a day it couldn't quite digest. The meat rain remains an enigma, a puzzle piece that doesn't fit neatly into any narrative. It's a reminder that sometimes the universe throws us a curveball, and we're left standing in the outfield, glove in hand, wondering what just happened. The sanitized story might file this under unexplained phenomena, but we know better. This was a testament to the power of human fear and the chaos it breeds. Let's not kid ourselves. History is littered with these bizarre moments. Those strange days when reality slips and we're forced to confront something beyond our understanding. The day it rained meat is just another chapter in the messy, unpredictable book of humanity. It's a story of nature reminding us who's really in charge, and our subsequent scramble to make sense of it all. These are not just historical oddities. They're lessons served on a platter of absurdity. And we'd be fools to ignore them. So, what's the takeaway for those of us navigating the modern world? The next time you find yourself in the midst of chaos, remember Bath County. Remember the meat, the fear, the frenzy. When faced with the unknown, our first instinct is often to panic, to clutch at straws and draw wild conclusions. But history teaches us that the only way forward is through understanding, curiosity, and a willingness to accept that not everything will have an immediate answer. Let Bath County's tale be a cautionary one. The real disaster wasn't the meat, it was the reaction. A community thrown into turmoil by its own fear. Their legacy serves as a stark reminder: let fear control you, and you relinquish your power to understand, to adapt, to grow. The meat rain wasn't an end, it was a beginning, a chance to confront fear with knowledge rather than hysteria. So, when the sky starts falling, hold your ground, keep your wits, and seek the truth. The past is never truly past. It's a living, breathing entity that shapes our present and our future. The day it rained meat in Kentucky is one such echo, reverberating through time to remind us of our flaws and our potential. So, as you go about your day, remember the lesson of Bath County. The unknown isn't the enemy. It's our reaction to it that defines us. Stand strong, question everything, and never let fear be the architect of your fate. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind sharper. In the months following the meat rain, Bath County tried to pick up the pieces. The landscape returned to normal, but the psychological debris lingered. People resumed their daily routines, but with a wariness that hadn't been there before. The fields were tilled, the cattle fed, but every gust of wind, every unfamiliar shadow seemed to carry a whisper of that fateful day. Life went on, but the trust in the ordinary had been fractured. The local papers moved on to news stories, but the meat rain left its mark. It became a local legend, a ghost story of sorts, told around campfires and whispered to wide-eyed children. But to the townsfolk who lived through it, it was no mere tale. It was a grim reminder of their vulnerability. Each retelling was a reminder of how close they'd come to the edge of reason. The event became folklore, a part of their identity as much as any barn or field. The scientific community, however, couldn't let it rest. Theories continued to circulate, each more desperate than the last. Some proposed weather phenomena that defied common sense, while others clung to the vulture explanation, regardless of its improbability. The truth is, the event exposed the limits of their knowledge, the gaps in their understanding. It was a humbling experience, a reminder that even the experts can be left floundering in the face of the inexplicable. For the Crouch family, life was irrevocably changed. Their porch, a symbol of domestic tranquility, had been transformed into a monument of the absurd. They became reluctant celebrities, their home a pilgrimage site for curiosity seekers and skeptics alike. The event thrust them into a spotlight they never asked for, a constant reminder of the day the sky betrayed them. Despite the passage of time, they remained the custodians of the mystery, forever tied to the strange event that disrupted their lives. In the end, the day it rained meat became more than just a local curiosity. It was a cautionary tale, a lesson etched into the annals of history. It taught us that the unknown is not our enemy, but rather a challenge to be met with courage and curiosity. Bath County's strange encounter with the inexplicable serves as a reminder of our place in the grand scheme of things, a small part of a vast, unpredictable universe. As we move forward, let us remember to question, to seek, to understand, rather than succumb to fear. Because if we don't, we risk being caught in our own reign of chaos. As the years rolled on, the meat rain settled into the dusty pages of local lore, but it never truly faded away. Bath County transformed, but the shadows of that peculiar day remained, an echo across generations. The tale was passed down, each retelling more embellished than the last, a testament to the enduring power of storytelling. In every telling, the meat rain morphed, adapting to the fears and fascinations of each new audience, a living legend that refused to die. For the descendants of those who lived through it, the meat rain was a peculiar badge of honor, a strange claim to fame steeped in mystery and intrigue. It was a reminder of their roots, a connection to a shared past that was both bizarre and bonding. Family gatherings teemed with tales of ancestors who witnessed the unfathomable, each story a thread in the tapestry of their heritage. The event became a point of pride, an identity carved from the fabric of the uncanny. Meanwhile, the academic world couldn't quite let go. Papers were penned, lectures delivered, each seeking to unravel the mystery with a modern lens. But the more they probed, the more elusive the truth became. It was a case study in humility, a reminder that not all questions have answers. The meat rain was a paradox, a riddle wrapped in flesh that defied logic and left even the sharpest minds in a perpetual state of wonder. Beyond academia, the meat rain seeped into popular culture, appearing in novels, films, and even music. It became a metaphor for the inexplicable, the ultimate symbol of life's unpredictability. Artists and writers found in it a muse, a source of inspiration that spoke to the chaos and beauty of existence. The event transcended its origins, evolving into a cultural touchstone that resonated with anyone who ever felt the rug pulled out from under them. So, what does the legacy of the meat rain teach us? It's a stark reminder that life is full of surprises, some delightful, others unnerving. It challenges us to embrace the unknown with open arms, to find awe rather than fear in the inexplicable. Bath County's strange day is a call to curiosity, a prompt to explore the unknown with eyes wide open. In a world that often demands certainty, the Meet Rain tells us it's okay to not have all the answers. Embrace the mystery, let it fuel your quest for knowledge, and remember, sometimes, it's the questions without answers that teach us the most.